Resourceful Designer, episode 306, Hiring Subcontractors.
Welcome to the Resourceful Designer Podcast, offering solutions to streamline your graphic and web design business so you can get back to designing. And now, your host. A vampire is his go-to Halloween costume, Mark Decote.
Yeah, vampire was always easy for me. My hair is black, and when I was younger, I had a predominant widow's peak. So if I slicked my hair back, I had a very noticeable triangular point to my hairline in the center of my forehead, something you see in old vampire movies. So if I needed a quick costume, all I had to do was grease my hair back, put on a white shirt, black pants, throw on a black cape and a pair of plastic teeth, and I was good to go. Now, when I say I was younger, because, well, most of my hair on top is gone now, and the widow peak went with it, and I don't know of too many balding vampires, but I could probably still pull it off. Anyway, in this week's episode of Resourceful Designer, I'm talking about hiring contractors or subcontractors. When you need them, how to find them, and how to work with them. If you've never hired anyone to help you on a project, you'll want to pay close attention to this episode. But before I get to that, I'm very happy to announce that this episode of the podcast is brought to you by Sticker Mule. Now, Sticker Mule is so easy to use. They have a full assortment of tools right on their website that makes it easy to design stickers right there. But I know you're a designer. You're probably going to use the tools that you are already familiar with, and I don't blame you. Well, let me tell you how easy it is to turn your designs into beautiful custom stickers, magnets, buttons, keychains, and so much more. You start by visiting stickermule.com and selecting your product from their menu. Let's use stickers as an example. Then you're presented with various sticker options, such as round stickers, square stickers, sticker sheets, clear stickers, static cling stickers, and many more. In this case, I'll just say we'll pick die-cut stickers. Then it's a simple matter of choosing either a predetermined or a custom size and selecting your quantity. Then you upload your artwork file. There's no need for you to provide a keyline for cutting since Sticker Mule does that work for you. Then they'll send you a proof for your approval, giving you one more chance to make any adjustments if required, and that's it. You just have to sit back now and wait for your order to arrive. It's that simple. In a few days, you'll receive high-quality stickers made exactly to your specifications. If you haven't ordered anything from Sticker Mule before, I think you'll be pleasantly surprised on just how easy it is to do so. Now, Sticker Mule is currently offering a special deal for listeners of Resourceful Designer. Right now, you can get 10 custom stickers for just $1 and free shipping. But only if you use the special URL stickermule.com/resourcefuldesigner. That's stickermule.com/resourcefuldesigner. So don't wait. Get your 10 custom stickers for $1 plus free shipping now at stickermule.com/resourcefuldesigner. Thank you, Sticker Mule, for sponsoring the podcast. And now, hiring subcontractors. One of the perks of running your own design business is the freedom it provides. You have nobody to answer to but yourself. Yeah, okay, there are the clients. You do have to answer to them, but only to a degree. It is your business, so you do get to dictate how you answer to them. If you don't want to work on a Friday afternoon, you can take the time off. If you want to try a new design technique or maybe some different software, there's nobody stopping you. And you get to decide how much you charge for your services and when you change those rates anytime you like. The freedom of working for yourself is one of, if not the main reason people choose the life of, and I can't believe I'm going to say this, even though I don't agree with the term, but the life of a freelancer. Ugh, it felt dirty just saying that. And if you're not sure what I'm talking about, go back and listen to episode 17 of the podcast, please. It's titled, Being a Freelance Graphic Designer Could Hurt Your Business. It'll make you rethink using the word freelancer when you refer to yourself. But where was I? Ah, yes, the freedom of running your own design business. For many of us, it's the ultimate dream. Now, speaking on behalf of many home-based designers and web designers around the world, I will never work for someone else again. I know many of them feel the same way. But just because you're working for yourself, running your own business, doesn't mean you've made it. I hate to burst your bubble, but the purpose of every business is to grow. A business that doesn't grow will eventually fail. There are many business studies that have proven this point. And your business will never grow to its full potential because of one thing that's holding it back. And that one thing is you. Yes, without you, there wouldn't be any business. However, you are also your business's biggest liability. Now, how can that be? It's because of your limitations. Those limitations may be skills you lack. It may be time, the time to do things, or maybe the time to learn things. It may be knowledge. You can't be expected to know everything. Or it could be any number of things. Now, don't feel bad. I'm not singling you out. Everyone has limitations. But what will help your business grow is knowing those limitations and finding a way to overcome them. And one of the best ways for business owners to overcome their limitations is by working with people who offset those limitations. In other words, your business will grow when you learn to hire people who do what you can't or shouldn't be doing. I know, at first this may seem like a foreign concept. The whole point of going at it alone is just that, to be alone. But being alone will only get you so far. You need a team if you want to grow beyond your limited capabilities. I speak from experience. I ran my design business for years, all by myself. In my mind, it was my business, therefore I had to do everything. My clients were hiring me, after all. If a client asked me to do something I couldn't do, I just didn't take on the project. I politely turned it down, and it was limiting my growth. I once turned down a $50,000 website project because I wasn't confident with my skills with PHP and MySQL, and I kick myself to this day for that one. But I couldn't do it at the time, so I said no. Then I kept at it, trudging away, taking on the projects I could do and passing on the ones I couldn't. Now, at the time, I was making decent money, and I thought I was doing very well. But my business wasn't really growing. Year after year, my income was pretty much the same. It wasn't going up as needed for growth. I had reached what I like to now call my solo limit. I could only take my business so far on my own. Now, I didn't know it then, but I was holding my business back. It wasn't until I started reading more business books and listening to business-related podcasts that I realized that most successful entrepreneurs don't work alone. No, they have a team that works with them to accomplish their business goals and to help them grow. And if I wanted my business to grow, I would have to do the same thing. Now, I didn't just jump in with both feet and hire a whole bunch of people. I took it slow. I remember my first hire was when I ran into an issue with a client's website. I wasn't exactly sure how to fix the problem. I figured I could probably do it given enough time, but I had no real idea of where to start or how long it would actually take me. So instead of spending hours researching and troubleshooting it myself, I found someone online who was an expert in that area and paid them to fix it for me. It cost me $100 for what I'm sure would have taken me an entire day's worth to accomplish, if not more. Plus, I could then charge the client a higher price for the fix and profit from the whole experience. And that's the case with most contractors. Sure, you do have to pay them, but you pass on that cost to your clients and make a profit. So there's really no downside to paying a contractor. Now, that was my first experience in hiring a subcontractor, and it was such a good experience that I started looking for other ways subcontractors could help me. Now, fast forward several years, and I now have an expanded team of people I can turn to for all sorts of situations. And through them, I've almost tripled my income compared to my pre-hiring days. I removed myself as a liability to my business by hiring people to help me. Now, I just want to clarify something here. I'm not referring to employees when I say hire. I've never had an employee, so I can't help you on that front. I'm talking about hiring subcontractors. These are people you work with on an as-needed basis. When a situation arises where you can use the help, you hire them and you pay them for that task. Now, you will end up working with some subcontractors or contractors on a regular basis, and some you'll only work with once or twice, and that's it. And as a business owner, you should constantly look for people to grow your team. When you meet or hear of someone with a particular skill, take note and file that information away for when you need it. Think of it in the terms of, say, grocery shopping. Maybe you add onions to your shopping basket, not because of a particular dish you're thinking of making, but because you know there's a chance you'll require onions soon, so you might as well have them on hand. Well, your team members are the same. You might as well have them in case you need them. Now, this team you're forming, the team I'm talking about, this is just for you. You don't even have to tell the people who are on your team that they're part of it. They'll find out when you do hire them. All you're doing is building a personal database of people whose skills may be useful someday. That's your team. So when it comes to hiring a subcontractor, what kind are there that you can get for your business? Well, the possibilities are endless. But here's a short list of some of the more common ones that designers use. There's photographers. Hiring a photographer yourself, instead of relying on the client to provide photos, allows you to control and get the exact image you want for your design. When I was hired years ago to design a brochure for the newly renovated engineering department at Queen's University in Kingston, Ontario, I had a vision of exactly what I wanted to design. Now, to accomplish my vision, I hired a photographer to take specific photos of the campus, the engineering departments, and the faculty. I was able to set the mood I wanted by dictating the angles of the shots, the composition, and the lighting. I talked it over with the photographer before he went in for his shoot and explained exactly what I wanted so that he knew beforehand what photos he had to take. Now, the photographer worked his magic and he produced the shots that I wanted, and the brochure was a hit. Now, if you want to learn more about dealing with photographers, listen to episode 3 of the podcast, where I talked with Brett Gilmore, an award-winning commercial photographer in Calgary, Alberta, here in Canada. Now, next is illustrators. For those of us lacking in that particular talent, like myself, hiring someone is the only way to include custom illustration work in your design. I mean, there's only so much you can get by with stock images. And even if you're an accomplished illustrator, you may need someone with an illustration style outside of your comfort zone. Now, I have several illustrators on my team for this very reason. I have one that specializes in caricatures. I have another in technical drawing. I have another who is really good at watercolors. And I have another guy that's really good with markers. And I have people with different illustration techniques, such as Japanese manga or somebody that does vintage looking illustrations. I have the guy that does like modern, I call it cubism. And I even have a guy who makes people look like Simpsons characters. The idea is to know as many illustrators as possible in case one day you need their skills. Next, there's copywriters. Now, unless you have a degree in journalism or some other writing discipline, you should consider working with copywriters whenever possible. Copywriters do with words what we designers do with pixels. They turn simple sentences into compelling messages. When designers and copywriters work together, it creates magic. And that magic allows you to charge much more for your services. Including a copywriter can mean the difference between charging $5,000 for a website design that doesn't use a copywriter and $10,000 for one that does use a copywriter. It's that valuable. And the clients who understand the value a copywriter brings are much more willing to pay for their services. I use the 3-tiered pricing system that I talked about back in episode 145 of the podcast. And my 3rd tier includes a copywriter. And it's a premium jump in price, but I have had many clients over the years that have chose that one specifically for that service. Now, next is developers. Now, websites are so versatile and the ecosystem is ever expanding. So it's understandable that one web designer can't do everything. So hiring developers allows you to offer much more to your clients. In most cases, you hire a developer to do the things you don't know how to do. But there are also times when you may want to hire a developer to help speed things up. I've hired Brian, a member of the resourceful designer community, to help me with several website projects. Not because I can't do what I'm hiring him for, although in some cases that's exactly why I did hire him, but in most cases, It's because Brian is just much faster at doing some things than I am. It's more beneficial for me to pay Brian for, say, 3 hours of work than it is for me to spend 6 hours doing the same thing myself. And while Brian is tackling whatever task I gave him, my time is now freed up to work on other things. So even though I'm paying Brian for his services, I'm actually making more money than if I didn't hire him, since now I can charge my client for Brian's time, and I'm making money during that same time not having to work on the website. So it's almost like I'm double charging. Now, I can go on and on with people you can hire. I mean, there's people with specialized skills such as SEO or social media or online advertising, sales funnels, building email lists, translators, and so much more. And sometimes it's just something simple. You need to hire somebody to do something you just don't want to do, such as removing the background on over 300 product photos for a catalog. I had to do that once, and I'd much rather pay someone to do that than sludge through it myself. Every one of these people that you can hire will help grow your design business. So once you decide that you need to hire somebody, what is it that you look for? Well, you should find somebody with obviously the skills that you seek, but you also have to make sure that they're reliable, trustworthy, and that they're easy to deal with. And in my limited experience, I will admit my experience hiring people is limited, but I believe you're better off finding multiple contractors who each excel in a particular skill than finding one person with a general knowledge of multiple skills. They may charge more if they niche down, but their expertise is worth it. Years ago, I drove a GMC Yukon. It's a big truck SUV. I was experiencing problems where all of a sudden the vehicle would just lose power, and I'd be driving and all of a sudden I could no longer accelerate. It would just keep slowing down, and I needed to pull off the road, turn it off, wait about 10 minutes before starting it up again, and then continuing like normal. Now you can imagine how aggravating this was. So I took it to a very well-respected auto repair chain that I'd been going to for years. I liked them because they're very good, they're very friendly, and their rates were much more reasonable compared to the dealerships. Now, over the course of a couple of months, they would find something and fix it and tell me the problem was taken care of. But then a few days later, or maybe a week or two later, the problem would happen again. And this went back and forth a few times, to the point when I finally got fed up and I decided to bring my Yukon to the actual GMC dealer, even though I knew their service prices were way higher than the place I was going to. Well, my vehicle was in the service bay for no more than 30 minutes when the service guy came out to tell me that the problem had been fixed. It turned out that this was a common issue that they'd seen before. They've dealt with it with my particular year model of Yukons. All it was one small wire that needed to be replaced. And once they did that, I never had the problem again. You see, these people worked on GMC vehicles all day long. They knew them inside and out because it's all they do. So when presented with my vehicle, they knew exactly how to fix it. The auto repair chain that I originally went to, they're very good, but they work on every make and model of vehicle there is. So it's impossible for them to know the nuances of every car and truck out there. Well, the same goes for subcontractors. You're better off paying a bit more money for someone who specializes in a certain area than to pay somebody who kind of generalizes across multiple areas. So once you figure out what sort of contractor you need, where do you find them? Well, there are many, many places you can find subcontractors. And the best place, in my opinion, is via your existing network. It's much easier to work with someone you already have a relationship with, or with a contractor vouched for by someone you know. I hired Brian because I knew him through the resourceful designer community. One of the illustrators I've used over the years is someone I went to school with. Another developer I've used was recommended by another designer I know. And my first copywriter, when she told me she couldn't work for me anymore because she was hired, she found a job where she wasn't allowed to do any side work, she recommended a fellow copywriter that I then worked with. These type of hires are always the most lucrative in my experience because there's some sort of relationship, either direct or indirect, between you and the contractor. But if your network doesn't have the people you need, there are plenty of places online you can turn to. Now, my favorite are Upwork.com, TopTal.com, Freelancer.com, and yes, even Fiverr.com. Now, these platforms often give you two options when hiring contractors. You can either post the position or skill you're looking for, along with how much you're willing to spend, a small, brief description of the project. You put it out there, and then you let anybody who's interested apply, and then you go through all the applications. Or alternatively, you can search the platforms, look for the people that have the talent that you're searching for, and then you can reach out to them to see if they're available and if they're interested in taking on your project. Now, I've had success with both methods, although I do prefer to approach the people myself. I prefer to search through the database, find the people, and approach them to see if they're willing. I don't know, I've just seemed like, even though both methods had worked, I just feel more comfortable doing it that way, but that's just me. Now, some things to consider when hiring someone are where they're located, their familiarity with the language you speak, and of course, price. Now, these online portals I mentioned, they connect people from around the world. So it's not unheard of if the perfect person that fits exactly who you need happens to live on the other side of the globe. So you must consider if time zones are an issue. Are you okay working with someone who might be going to bed right as you're starting your day? Now, in most cases, that might not be a problem. However, if you're working with tight deadlines, knowing your contractor won't see your instructions for another 10 to 12 hours may become a problem. So in cases like this, you may want to refine your search to people geographically closer to where you are, and most platforms will allow you to do this. Now, you should also be wary of language barriers when hiring someone. Understanding a language and being fluent in the language are two different things, and you don't want issues because of misunderstanding in communication. Now, some online platforms will indicate what language the contractors are fluent in, so please keep that in mind. Because in some cases, it might not be a big issue, but there are some instances where you want to make sure that they understand you perfectly. And finally, there's price. Now, the prices on these platforms vary significantly. Due to the various living costs worldwide, you'll see a wide range of prices the contractors charge for their services. Now, typically, you'll pay higher for someone in North America than you would for someone in, let's say, an Asian country. So you have to take all these things into consideration when hiring someone, besides the skills they offer. Where they are, how comfortable they are with your language, and what they charge for their services. Weigh each of these and choose the perfect contractor for you. Now, there is so much more that could be said when it comes to hiring subcontractors. I mean, there are entire books dedicated to just this subject. But I hope my little scratch of the surface gives you an idea of how and what to look for when expanding your team. I know it's in our nature to do everything ourselves. It's very difficult to relinquish that control. But I want you to remember something. Clients don't hire you to do a job. They hire you to get a job done. And sometimes the most efficient, practical, and cost-saving way to get a job done is to hire someone to help you do it. Your clients will appreciate your ingenuity. So next time you are faced with a task, something maybe you're unsure of how to do, or you find yourself with too much to do and too little time to do it, or maybe you just don't feel like doing something, remember, you're not alone. There's a whole world of people out there ready to join your team and help you grow your design business. Don't be the liability that holds back your growth. And that's what I wanted to talk about today. Now, before I go, I just want to mention the resourceful designer community. I talked about Brian, who's a member that I've hired and many other people in the community have hired as well. That's the type of network where you can find people to help. There are so many talented people in there, and they're all willing to help each other out. And I guarantee, if somebody in the community has the skills I'm looking for, they're the first person I would turn to. So whether you're an established designer or you're new, if you're looking for a community of designers to help you along, not just by hiring them, but just helping to guide you, to critique your work, to give you advice and pointers, and lead you in the right direction to help you grow, then why not consider joining the Resourceful Designer community? Visit resourcefuldesigner.com/community to join today. I also want to just give a quick shout out once again to Sticker Mule. Thank you so much for sponsoring this episode. Please don't forget to take advantage of the deal they're offering to Resourceful Designer listeners, where you can get 10 custom stickers for $1 and free shipping by visiting stickermule.com/resourcefuldesigner. So that's it for me. It's time for me to go create the login information to give Brian so he can help me on yet another website. Until next time, I am Mark Decote, wishing you all the best and growth of your design business and reminding you to stay creative.
Thanks for listening to the Resourceful Designer Podcast at resourcefuldesigner.com.